Yeah.
And sometimes it's a certain thought, know.
Hey, Tony.
Hey, what's up, Carlos? Oh my gosh, it's been forever since I seen you, my friend.
I know. Here I
And
am.
you're in a tie. What the?
I'm always in a tie. Come
I've
on.
not seen you in a tie.
I'm always in a tie.
You say that, but I know.
Hey, Tony, how are you?
Hey, hi, Richard. How are you?
All right, I'm not wearing a tie. Carlos always looks professional.
Now, whether he acts professional, I don't know. I'm not here to judge.
That's questionable.
We are working on that.
How you guys doing?
Good. How have you
Good.
been?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I was just in a brief MLS department meeting, and Cece was just telling us about some of the new things that are kind of being voted on, like the MLS Rules Committee is voted to change the status change time period from 2 days to 1 day.
Yeah, that's coming forth, right?
So I guess it's at their board of directors right now to vote on. So
Well, and actually having a listing active within 1 day, not 2 days. I think that's something else that's coming.
oh well, don't they already have that rule from the time you start marketing the property?
Yeah, but if you have a new listing and you haven't marketed, that's if you are on a coming soon status or a registered status.
Oh, I thought oh, gotcha. So registered, you've got to make sure that you're putting it in on the day that you're putting it in. You're not given that 2-day grace period.
No, apparently not. Right. If you start marketing, if you start marketing it, then you have a day to make it active.
Yeah. I usually tell people right now, and like I'll tell you guys today, like usually the day before, move it over from registered and then into the MLS and then start inputting it in. So that way it goes live the day of. So whether agents are doing it or not, I don't know. But so how's business for you guys so far? In this,
Not as good as last year, but still pretty good.
good.
Yeah, just the whole demeanor has changed.
Gotta love inflation. Gotta
Yeah.
love interest rates.
Taking weeks to get one offer.
Oh, God.
It's back to what it once was.
Well, I think it's also that sweet spot too. My wife just had a listing go live in Garden Grove, listed at 875, and I think she's got it into escrow at 815, I'm sorry, 915, 920.
Really?
So, oh yeah, her first day, even though it was shown by appointment only, there were people in and around the neighborhood just showing up. So she had like 50 showings in 1 day. And most of those people were not represented by agents.
We're not hearing that story too much now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of amazing. She opened escrow yesterday. So she's like, hey.
Happy. Well, tell her to enjoy it while she can.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It's kind of crazy. There's business out there. There really is.
Oh yeah. And buyers have more choices now.
Exactly. And I see Ruth, she's got her gun in the background to make
I
people
like it, Ruth.
offers. Now, Ruth, is that a muzzle loader or a lever action? You don't know? I just want to know how much time I can get away.
It's loaded and ready, Tony, so you don't have much time.
No. So any big things you want me to focus on today in our class?
Well, I'm not familiar with the class that you're going to be conducting, so I have to say that. Didn't realize it was an offering until this is the first time I think that it was on the schedule. Let's put it that way.
Okay. All right.
So what I might do is just as you progress throughout the presentation, I'll ask some questions, I would think.
Okay.
Areas that maybe we'd like to focus on.
Yeah, we're just focusing on the top violations, even though I will be I try to update this quarterly, just because the newest one that I'm kind of amazed at is agents not correcting their listings on time. which, I mean, it's kind of crazy, and changing their statuses. So I guess there's a lot of auto solds happening, and of course, a lot of delayed entries happening, which is probably why CRMLS is trying to tighten those screws on people.
Yeah, that's well, and the claim is that everybody has technology, so there's no reason that you can't comply with these shorter timeframes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the way it's gonna be.
That's true. That's true.
Nothing is slowing down.
That means Carlos is going to get even busier, right, Carlos?
I think he feels busy enough already, but
And John's just chilling out there in the background, I can tell.
so Sarah was logged in. I don't see her now. Oh, there she is.
I'm here.
Hi, Sarah.
Sorry. How are you?
Good. We're going to start with Sarah Menchaca from Southern California Funding today. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming. Sarah.
Good morning. So things are looking good this morning, but we have a big meeting with the Fed tomorrow. So I would suggest, anyone has any transactions out there to go ahead and lock in. The rates are a little bit better than they were last week, about an eighth better on your conforming. So today we'd be looking at a range between 4.5 to 4.75 on your conforming. On high balance, we're looking at about 4.625 to 4.99. And then, jumbos pretty much the same, probably about an eighth lower, 4.99 to 5.375. So the big thing is that the Fed is expecting to raise the interest rates again tomorrow. That's the news, but again, news of the recession still is in the market, and that is what's kind of still causing the ups and downs of the mortgage rates. So that's kind of where we stand.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Sarah? So rates are about 5 and 5. Is it an eighth better in rate or cost, Sarah?
This would be an eighth better in rate. Yeah. But like I said, I think we're going to see some price increases as the days goes on today, just for what's going to happen tomorrow.
Okay. Well, I don't disagree. I think there's been this one opportunity, a slight benefit in the market right now currently. So it's yet to be determined what's going to happen tomorrow, but most likely it's not going to be good. Certainly not for us. Sarah, thank you very much. If anyone has questions for Sarah, please feel free to contact her at any time. So our guest speaker is Tony Bried with Orange County Association of Realtors. Tony's going to be talking about the power of the proper listing, and that's going to include subjects or aspects that include information regarding violations, what you're required to do. And then I do want to touch upon agency at the end of the discussion, and we have some actual live case right now associated with our office, unfortunately. But I just have some things I'd like to remind you of regards to what your obligations are when representing a buyer. So Tony, if you'd like to begin.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I just need to share my screen if that's possible.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, that's kind of scary with the interest rates. I know that they've been talking about that. So you guys should definitely talk to Richard and Carlos about strategy for sure. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Today's class is about the power of the proper listing. As many of you know who I am, for those of you who don't, my name is Anthony. I work at Orange County Realtors. Been here now for almost 20 years. So started off in the MLS department. Guaranteed I'll speak to most of you, or I should speak to most of you regarding rules, regulations, which is our class today. But I also train on MLS, how to run searches, add and modify listings, creating CMAs, because I'm part of the outreach program here, which is designed to give you training on all your tools and products. So Carlos and Richard both have me give monthly trainings on MLS, zip forms, tips and tricks, how to put together your transactions electronically. And of course, I love training on tech. I love showing you all how you should be utilizing technology in today's age to make your transactional lives a lot easier. From using your phone device, from using your tablet devices to be able to access MLS, to be able to access your zip forms, to be able to do a electronic listing presentation without having to carry stacks of paper, right? Nobody wants to necessarily carry these big giant binders anymore because they're heavy, right? We can do everything on these little tablet devices that are less than 1 pound and less than 1 inch thick. And everybody's got access to internet nowadays. And with what we're about to go over, depending on what happens in the next month or so, the rules are going to be changing to such a degree that you need to start using your technology to start doing things properly in the MLS, or you're going to get hit with fines. Now, it's my job to make sure that you guys avoid these fines, and gals, by the way, right? Because the last thing I want to see is anybody get hit with a $15,000 fine and a suspension of MLS. Richard doesn't want to see that. Carlos doesn't want to see that. And of course, obviously, your pocket doesn't want to see that. Okay. So with that said, let's start off with one of the common violations. MLS Rule 12.5, the misuse of public remarks. Basically, the property description. The property description field is only meant to describe the aesthetics and physicality of the property. Okay. You cannot have anything in there like gate codes, showing instructions, compensation data, lockbox information, like here's the combo code or anything like that. Obviously, don't want to talk about the occupancy status. I'm amazed to this day how many agents will still put in their property descriptions that the property is vacant. You don't want to do things like that. You're compromising the safety of the home. Email addresses, websites, any self-promotion of you, phone numbers, brokerage data, open house data, all that is not allowed. But here we have to also be super careful, and this is something that we all need to be mindful of, is language that violates fair housing. I know Richard has talked about that to you guys probably ad nauseum, right? I do believe, if I remember, about 3 years ago, when, before COVID, he talked about how an agent in Minnesota violated fair housing. And not only did the clients or these buyers go after not only the agent, but the brokerage and the MLS for fair housing violations and language. Now, just in case you don't know, CRMLS does have a very small list, all right, of what not to say. Now, I will say that this list is actually quite big, but they're just at least giving you examples of what not to say. Things like board approval, great for Catholics, great for colored people, right? What are we doing? We're now segmenting and making, even though we think, well, geez, we're promoting the property in the neighborhood, you're actually could be possibly excluding out groups of people. Anytime something could be made as an argument that you've excluded a group as discrimination, that's considered fair housing, right? Can't say things like, this is a great home for a family. This is a great home for an executive. This is a great home for a first-time homeowner. Because now you're discriminating against somebody else that might not be married, might not have a family, might not be an executive. Maybe I just work at the Five and Dime as a waiter, right? I have every right to live at that property or buy that property. Here's a big one that we should be really mindful of. You can't say things like women or women only, but not just that, but you can't say men or men only. As a matter of fact, nowadays with whatever the lettering is, was it LBGQXYZ plus minus whatever, take that all into account. Reread your property descriptions. Now, one phrase that I'm surprised that's not in here is walking distance, right? Can't say walking distance to a place. Why? Because not everybody's able to walk. What you could say or should say is something to the effect of short distance or close by, right? Because now it's all relative to the individual. One thing that I would definitely recommend as well, don't give exact distances. Don't say 2 miles from the freeway or 1.5 miles to the beach. Why? Because somebody will will literally try to measure it out. And if your measurement is off, whether it's off greatly or small or above or below, somebody is now going to get you not only for fair housing, but risk management. Which, Richard, do you love risk management problems? Exactly.
That's why we're talking about agency when you're done with your presentation.
Exactly. Try to avoid those risk management issues. So here, just be careful of that. Now, I know that one phrase and word set of words that people are really trying to get on the fair housing list is master bedroom, master bathroom, right? There's arguments now that say that saying the word master is oppressive, discriminating, and sexist. So, you probably want to start now retooling that just a little bit to say maybe primary bedroom, primary bathroom, something to those effects, because one day fair housing will probably flip that switch and say, yes, that's on our do not say list. Now you've already gone through the motions to change that mindset. Okay. By the way, you can always go to crmls.org's website, go to their knowledge base and do a search for fair housing keywords, and they will have about a 4-page list of what you can and cannot say. But for a better list, look it up online, do a Google search on fair housing language, and it will give you a list of what not to say in any marketing. And by the way, it's not just MLS property description. This is also on your flyers, your website, everything else. Okay. Any questions on fair housing? Have I beaten that one to death?
That's fine, Tony.
All right. Now, in the MLS, you do have what they call the syndication remarks field. Now, this field, even though you want to be careful of saying certain things like fair housing violations, language, this field does allow you to promote yourself. Your listing goes out to more than 91,000 public websites. Not all of those public websites actually will pull the property description, and not all those websites will actually display in a prominent fashion the listing agent or the listing company. So the syndication remarks field was created a few years ago to allow you as an agent to put in things like listed by, and then your name and your company name. Will allow you to put in your email address and your phone number to be contacted. Okay. So this field here, which is right below the property description public remarks field in the MLS, does allow for that. But you'll notice here that the character count will be the exact same. And I do believe it's 2,500 characters now for your property description. Most of us ignore this field. And you'll notice that when you go to re-edit your listing, that this copies exactly what the property description has. If you want to modify your syndication remarks field, you may need to modify this a little bit to fit your information. So if you've met your 2,500 character maximum limit, you're probably going to need to shorten it just a little bit to be able to allow you to type in your name, your email address, your phone number, and of course your company. Okay. Now, also right below the syndication remarks field, you can also put in your virtual tour that's on your branded YouTube channel. Okay. Most of you are getting photography done, whereby the photographer will do a video for you, one that's unbranded for the MLS and one that's got your branding on it. Under the syndication remarks field, you do have a branded virtual tour link that you can paste into here as well, which will also go out to some of the public websites. Next violation, accuracy of data, MLS Rule 8.3. Real quickly, it's the listing agent and the listing broker responsibility to make sure that any and all information inputted into the MLS is accurate to the best of your ability. So you got to make sure that when you're inputting the listing, that you need to do the research and input the proper information, right? Like APN number, MLS area, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, subtype, attached, detached, and of course your statuses. Statuses are super important for your accuracy of information. Now, for those of you who don't know your statuses, here's your list of statuses. So real quickly, does everybody know the difference between, say, active, under contract, and pending?
Yes.
Yes? So Ruth, or actually John, what's the difference between active, under contract, and pending? And you can unmute yourself.
It's right there.
It's a little microphone icon to the bottom.
Oh, got it.
There you go.
Okay, under contract property has an accepted offer. Additional offers are being solicited. And then pending, it's in escrow and they're not trying to get more offers.
Excellent. You've read everything right on the screen. Awesome. Basically, the difference between used status or active, under contract, and pending, you have a signed accepted offer, you've opened escrow, but either A, contingencies are waiting to be removed, or B, the seller has given you written explicit instructions to still solicit the property to entertain other offers to be placed into backup position. Pending status, or P status, basically says that there's a signed accepted offer between seller and buyer, you've opened escrow, and either A, contingencies have been removed, or B, the seller has given you written explicit instructions to no longer solicit the property at all and just go with the one firm offer. It's perfectly feasible to take a listing from active directly into pending, depending on what the seller's needs are. If they send you an email saying, I don't want you to solicit the property anymore, make a copy of it or download a copy of it and put it in your file. Because if your records are ever audited, you've got a copy of it. Now, this goes into closed S status, right? You've closed escrow, yay. All is right in the world. Withdrawn and canceled, the big difference is here. Withdrawn says that the seller wishes to no longer sell their property, but the listing agreement between seller and brokerage is still active. This now means that other agents are not allowed to solicit the property, and the current agent or any other agent is not allowed to relist the property because the current listing is still active in a way. Canceled says that the seller wishes to no longer sell their property any longer, and that the listing agreement between seller and brokerage has been officially terminated or canceled. Now, the only person that's allowed to cancel a listing is the broker. They do not have to let the client out of contract. So agents, even though your name signed on the contract and the client's name signed on the contract, if you do not have your broker's signature, the contract is not canceled. So be careful of that. This is why agents are not allowed to cancel listings in the MLS, because that's up to the broker. Contradiction of status, which is a big one. I'm not sure if you guys see this a lot still, but I kind of do. Contradiction of status, like you see that the listing is active, but there in their showing instructions or private remarks, no showings until a certain date. Well, according to active, you're actively showing the property, you're actively marketing the property. There's been no accepted offers, so you cannot say no showings until a date if it's showing active. In this case, this listing should be put on hold, do not show until that date. So be careful of that. The next one, which is a big factor in the status changes here, the auto sold. So your listing, when you put it into active, under contract, or pending, has a projected close of escrow date. When you think, according to the contract, when that escrow should be closing, which now allows you to put that listing into the MLS as either pending or active under contract with a projection time of when it should be closing. Now, the auto close happens if the listing is either pending or active under contract and the projected COE date is passed by 5 days. Now, this is considered a violation. Why? Because according to MLS Rule 8.3, you have 2 days currently, or 2 business days currently, to update any information, including a status update on your listing. And this is also backed up by your MLS Rule 10.2.
Hey,
Now,
Tony, I have a question. What's the fine for the previous violation where you have the conflicting status?
$250. So if you don't change your status, it's $250. Now the auto sold, you've got a couple of status or a couple of fines that will stack up on top of this, like failure to update your status, 8.3, which is $250. And then it jumps up to $500 because you let the listing auto close. Now, I don't know about you guys. And real quickly, does anybody here so busy with escrows that you lose track of your escrows? No, right, Ruth? You got to keep track of your escrows, right? Why? Because you got all your timelines, right? You got so many days to do your inspection, so many days to review the disclosures. Well, put on your to-do list, close out your listing on your date. Because what happens when your listing doesn't close? You don't get paid, right? Anybody here monitor when they don't get paid? Like you're in so much liquid assets right now that you don't care if you close or not. If you don't care, I'm sure Richard wouldn't mind taking your full commission at that point. Right?
I would not do that. I would feel guilty.
Now, CRMLS does give you reminders to make sure that you update your status. If your listing isn't due to close on time, make sure that you go into your listing and extend out your projected COE date. Now, CRMLS sends you 4 notifications. One, they send you 14 days prior to the COE saying your listing's due to close in 14 days. Then they send you a second notice 7 days prior to that COE date. Then they send you a third notice 1 day before, and then they send you a fourth notification day of. So you're given 4 opportunities to extend out that projected COE date or close your listing when you're supposed to. Now, after 2 days, you're sent a warning saying your listing may be in violation because you're past your projected COE date by 2 days. Either extend it or close it. If you ignore that warning, then by the 5th day, your listing will now go to auto closed. And now you've received 2 violations. 1, failure to update your listing within 2 days, 8.3. And then of course, letting your listing go to auto closed. Because now it's been in the wrong status for an extra 3 days. Which is now a $750 fine in total. So make sure you always change your statuses. Real quickly here, MLS rule 7.8, mandatory delivery of a listing agreement. So currently right now, the MLS says that you've got 2 calendar days from the time of the listing effective date to get your listing into the MLS or to CRMLS as either a registered listing, a coming soon, or an active listing. So anybody here know what the effective listing contract date is on a listing agreement?
The date of the last required signature, and that does not include the agent's signature or date.
Okay, so perfect answer. So we take a listing agreement where by paragraph 1, it says the effective date is August 1st, but the clients don't sign the contract or the last required signature doesn't go on to the contract until August 15th. In this case, the August 15th date is the effective listing agreement date. But wait a minute. What happens if we've got on paragraph 1 the August 15th date, but they sign it on August 1st? What is the effective listing agreement date?
August 15th.
Exactly, John. August 15th. So it's either paragraph 1 or the last required signature, whichever is later, according to CAR legal. So whatever that effective listing date is, you've got currently 2 calendar days, which is, by the way, changed since November from 2 business days to 2 calendar days to input that listing. Now, this also hinges on marketing. Maybe Richard comes to my house, gives me a great listing presentation. We sign the listing agreement right now. And then he goes out to the car and puts a for sale sign right in my yard, which now means he's effectively begun to market the property. Well, now that he's marketed the property, he doesn't have a 2-day time frame to input that listing in. He's now only got a 1-day time frame to input that listing in as either coming soon or active. You'll notice here that there is no choice for registered. Why? Because it hinges on marketing of the property.
So
if the
Tony, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What if someone puts up the post but not the sign?
Then no one knows that who the agent or brokerage is. So technically it's not been marketed just yet.
But it'll get people, it'll make people aware that it's going on the market.
Right. But you don't know by who yet.
Okay, so that's not a violation. Okay.
That's not a violation because your marketing material is not on the home. No one knows that you're the representative of that company to legally represent the seller in the sale. So yeah, if you've got the post and you're just sticking it there without a sign, yeah.
Good tactic. That's a good tactic.
Now, real quickly, thanks to COVID, and actually not even thanks to COVID, thanks to the lawsuits that have happened about clear cooperation, right? Because consumers felt that agents weren't properly marketing the property and they didn't understand what the coming soon was and all this other stuff. CRMLS did make an official status back in 2020 of coming soon. Now, what coming soon allows you to do is market the property. So you can put your for sale sign, input the listing into the MLS. You can, put it on your personal website, things like that. The property, because it is in the MLS, is displayed to other agents and other brokerages. Because the listing is in the MLS, the buying agent commission is shown on the listing. Now, one of the cool benefits of coming soon is the days on market, or DOM, do not count while the property is in coming soon status. Now, while the listing is in coming soon status, it doesn't go out to all the public websites from the MLS. Even though you are allowed to market that property, say on your personal website or on the company website, the listing does get limited. So it's not going to be seen by websites like OC Register, LA Times, Homes and Land, that get a different type of feed. Now, while the listing is in coming soon, showings are not allowed at all. Not by you, not by anybody within the office, not even by other agents. So I would recommend that you do not put a lockbox on the property, or if you do put a lockbox, put a CBS code on the box so that agents do not show the listing. If you're caught ever showing or allowing showings to happen, this is a $2,500 fine, and it goes up. Okay. So while it's in coming soon, do not show the property. If for some reason, the client needs to see it, or you know what, then you're going to need to take it out of coming soon and put it to active. Now, coming soon also has a limitation of a maximum of 21 days from either the effective listing date or the effective start marketing date. By the way, coming soon, homeowners can be presented offers and can also accept offers. So the scenario is Carlos has a listing. He's got it in coming soon. John has a client. Even though they haven't seen it, they've seen the pictures on the listing. They now submit an offer to Carlos. He presents it to the seller. The seller signs off on it and says, yes, let's open escrow. I like the deal. Now Carlos puts the listing to either active under contract or depending, which now allows and affords John and his clients to go and freely inspect and see the home. Now, here's what happens at this point. If for some reason John and his clients decide to back out of escrow and the escrow cancels, coming soon is a one-shot deal, meaning that you as an agent cannot put a listing back into coming soon. So once it leaves coming soon, it is not allowed to go back. So in this case, Carlos now takes the listing out of, say, pending, and now he only can put it back to active. Even though maybe he only had it in coming soon for 3 days, because he changed it to pending, it now has to go back to active. Does that make sense? Now, I know everybody on their mind, what happens if the client doesn't want you to market or have the property in the MLS? We do have a rule for that, MLS rule 7.9.1, no cooperation of a listing. In this case, the seller, if they choose to not have the property marketed, like being inputted into the MLS, then they need to give that to you in writing. Now, there are 2 ways of doing this. Number 1, they do the traditional SELM, seller instructions to exclude listing from the multiple listing service, whereby paragraph 4, either A or B, is filled in. Paragraph 4A, says no marketing is allowed to be done until a certain date. Paragraph 4B says no marketing is allowed to be done at all for the entire listing period. So we could do that traditionally. Now, about 2020, about clear cooperation, CAR updated the residential listing agreement to have a brand new paragraph inputted in called paragraph 7. Now, paragraph 7 deals with marketing and clear cooperation. Here, under paragraph 7, subsection D, subparagraph 1 or 2, states exactly what the SELM 4 or paragraph 4A or B state. So here, under section 7D 1 or 2, whereby on the residential listing agreement, the seller instructs to not market the property until a certain date or do not market the property at all for the entire listing period. There you go. Now, depending on what your broker requirements are, some brokers will require that both be done. Other brokers say if you do the RLA paragraph 7D 1 or 2, then you do not need to necessarily do an SELM. So it really depends on what the brokerage requires. So in this case, Richard, do you require both or one over the other?
Just one.
Just
We
one.
prefer, yes, we prefer just using a listing contract.
Perfect. So there you go. You've heard it from the mouths of babes here. Okay. So if you forget to do the paragraph 7D, then make sure you do an SELM. Okay. To keep it out of the MLS, which now, if they do that, this now allows you to exclude the listing from the MLS system, but you have to register it. Registering the listing happens under the listing toolbox at the MLS dashboard before you log into the MLS system. The only things that are required is the address of the listing, the listing contract date, the expiration date, the list price, and if either 7D1 or paragraph 4A is done, then you need to have a start marketing date to register the listing. Now, registered status says you're not allowed to market the property at all. No for sale sign, no social media post, anything on your website, nothing. Okay. The listing, because it's not in the MLS, is not even found on the MLS. So other agents outside of your office won't know about it. Now, because the listing is not inputted into the MLS, buying agent compensation is not seen. Doesn't mean that you're not offering compensation to the buying agent or the buying brokerage per your listing agreement, but just know that because it's not found, it's not obligated to a set amount. Okay. While it's registered, days on market do not count. Why? Because you're not marketing. Obviously, because it's not being marketed, there's nothing distributed to any public website, but property is allowed to be shown. But it can only be shown either by the listing agent or someone within the office that actually has a signed disclosure regarding agency relationship between the client and that agent of the office. Now, here's where a lot of the confusion happens here. We know that Coldwell Banker has multiple offices in and around California, as well as the nation, right? So Carlos has a registered listing, but he is part of the Irvine office here of Coldwell Banker Platinum. Okay. He can talk about the property to the other agents in an office meeting. Okay. To kind of basically almost like a pocket listing. But for anybody to be actually able to see this property to a client, they must have a disclosure regarding agency relationship, or AD, signed between them and that agent. Now, another agent of Coldwell Banker Platinum in, say, Huntington Beach or in San Jose won't know about this and cannot see that listing at all because they are not part of this particular office. So be careful of that. Now, this also comes down to the marketing too. So here, MLS Rule 7.9, the mandatory submission upon marketing. What I wanted to highlight here is what is considered marketing. Now, marketing is limited or is not limited to any advertisement, meaning signs, websites, social media, brokerage or franchise operated websites, communication of any kind, whether it's written or, more importantly, verbal. Okay. Now, this one is getting a lot of agents into trouble. Say, as an example, Carlos tells the office that he's got a listing here that's registered, and for information, reach out to him. Okay. Now, if I tell my client, hey, there's a listing that, we have in the office that not everybody knows about, but if you want to see it, I can show it to you. Here's the address. Just sign my AD. My client now tells a friend of theirs. Now, their friend happens to be another agent or works with another agent, and they tell their agent about that listing. That agent routinely will go in the MLS to look for that property. Well, they don't see it. Now they give CRMLS a call and saying, hey, I found about this property. Is it registered? Because my client told me about it from a friend of theirs who happened to know this agent. Now, all of a sudden, that property is considered marketed. And now Carlos is in trouble for marketing the property, even though his client told someone else about the property.
Tony, what happens if the seller shares the information with someone?
You are in trouble for that. So you are held liable for all the marketing as well as the brokerage per the listing agreement. So if the seller promotes it, puts it on their website, then all of a sudden, or even puts it on social media that their home's for sale and it's registered, you can get in trouble for that.
Or just tells a friend?
Or just tells a friend. Which I've seen fines start off at $2,500 and go up. As well as code of ethics violations. So be careful. Be really careful. I will say registered status really ties your hands as an agent. If you're promising a client, hey, I promise you to do the highest and best marketing to get the highest and best dollar, especially in today's market, but they say, hey, I don't want you to market or even put in the MLS, they've now tied your hands on what you can do. Because now all of a sudden you can't guarantee them the highest and best offer. Let's see here real quickly, and we'll be almost done here, or be done. Listing photography, MLS Rule 11.5. Okay, you've got to have at least one photo on your listing within 2 calendar days of posting the listing. Okay, so if it's the one and only photo out of your 75, you must have at least an exterior shot. Okay, as seen from the street. Okay. This does not mean, geez, well, I'm in a condo, I'm just going to take a picture of the front door. That's not an external shot. Now, the only exception to this rule is if the listing is a business opportunity listing. So business opportunity listings do not need to have any photos. Or according to the listing agreement, paragraph 14, the seller has given you written instructions to not take any photos or videos of their property. Which, by the way, under paragraph 14A, if that paragraph is marked where they don't allow for that, then you should submit a copy of that listing agreement to CRMLS showing them why you don't have a photo on your listing. The third is a registered listing. Registered listings do not need to have any photos. Why? Because it's not being marketed. Okay. Let's see. Part of 11.5 copyright. Don't use someone else's copyrighted material on your marketing. So that means don't use either another photographer's photos or another agent's photos on your listing. You can't even copy from the internet your old photos and then put them on your new listing. If you don't have the copyright or the signed off authority from your photographer to reuse those photos, don't do it. $1,500 fines for copyright. And that's just by MLS. Also, branded media. Okay. Got to be careful of what is and is not on your photos. So no brokerage information, no phone numbers, websites, email addresses, not even the description of the photo itself. No for sale signs. Okay. Blur those out. No, don't do any solicitations. Big one, no pictures of people or animals in your photos. Okay. Don't, got to think about compromise and safety, as well as what rights do you have to use someone's image in your marketing material? Okay. As well as your virtual tours have to follow the same guidelines as well, especially for the unbranded videos. Okay. So be careful of those lifestyle photos, things like that. Especially when it comes to copyright. Don't say go to the Irvine website where it's the city website and you're taking photos from their website and putting them onto your listings. That's considered copyright violations. Another one is Google Photos. Okay.
Anthony, I have a question for you.
Uh-huh.
What about those ones that they taken to a drone, that you go up to the drone and take pictures and they put like the roof and all the view from the high?
Well, if it's not a physical photo, but it's a drawing or a rendering of a property, that is allowed as long as it's a true, like if it say it's a new construction where the property hasn't actually been built yet, and the builder / seller gives you their rendering of what the home will look like at the time that it's built, then that's okay.
I think she meant drone shots, like aerial drone shots.
Aerial drone shots, you got to be super careful of, just because number one, the drone photographer should know not to include people. I do believe it was a few years ago where someone did drone photography of the neighborhood, and in the backyard of the neighbor's house was their 16-year-old daughter sunbathing, in a bikini in the backyard. And of course, the agent just put it on their listing. So now all of a sudden, you've crossed a couple of lines there. So just be super careful and make sure that that photographer knows what they are doing. And of course, obviously review it and not use it if you have to. Does that make sense, Carlos? The other big thing is with people, make sure you can't make out their faces. So if you're doing something at the pier, make sure it's a big wide shot. So if it's a large group of people, you can't make out anybody's faces. Then that's okay. So speaking of which, here are the photos actually pulled out of our MLS system. As you'll notice here, it'll have the CRMLS watermarks. Okay. So these are the big no-nos. Starting at the top left corner here, the photo rendering. Just said you can have one, but is this what the house actually looks like? Is it on this exact yard with this exact sky? No. If this is not what the house looks like, then it cannot be in the MLS. Here's one. Person wanted to show that the property is entertaining, but wait a minute, we've got pictures of their faces. Did they give me the right to use their image in my marketing? Not to mention, do they come with the home? Probably not. I will say that I saw one that I was pretty astonished with. It was a picture of you know how some people will take pictures of the wall, like the upstairs, and you've got the family photos, right? We got to think about this. Pictures of children, right? Nowadays, with your listing going out to more than 91,000 websites, what's one weird thing that we've come across nowadays? The pedophiles, the internet pedophiles. So now all of a sudden, have I compromised the safety of the home with that small child being here at this address? I could. One other big thing here that I don't have is, anybody here see the pictures of the kids' room where the child's name is painted on the wall? Yeah. Do you remember the days of stranger danger? What was the big thing back in the school that we were told we shouldn't let our parents do?
Help remind us.
Stitch your name or write your name on your clothing, right? I get it. I can't remember my name. I only answered a huh or you or kid, right? So my parents wrote my name on my clothing. Well, strangers now know your name. Well, again, if you've got Michael's name or Sarah's name painted on the wall, and that listing goes out to all these websites, now a stranger can come up and yell out that child's name and kidnap them. So for those types of things, make sure you pull the pictures down off the wall if your photographer's taking pictures, or don't use the photo of the child's bedroom if their name is on the wall. We got to use some common sense, right? Another one here, kind of amazed at what agents use in their photos. This was a property out in Texas that I was looking at, and it was a picture of the bathroom. Agent wasn't in the photo, but typical fashion, there's the mirror, right? Well, the door is partially closed so that the agent could take the photo. Well, right there behind the door is the wife's unmentionables, bra, underwear, just hanging on the door. In that same listing, the closet was open with all their personal items just hanging out in the closet. So be mindful of stuff like that. I love this one over here to the right. We used Google Street or Satellite View. We just did a snapshot and then uploaded it as the listing. Right there, it says Google Maps. Copyright infringement down below. Agent literally not only took the snapshot, but rescanned it with their own handwriting and then tried to, or uploaded it and said, this was their own image. Well, right there on the image, it says Google Street View. Right?
This is funny stuff, Tony. Come on.
Well, I will tell you that Google has sued real estate agents for federal copyright violations. And the federal copyright violation law is $150,000 fine per incident and per display. So not only did they get the listing from the MLS, but from their personal website, a flyer that had this exact same image, and I think a social media post. So that right there is, what is that? A $600,000 fine paid to Google. Now, I don't know, Richard, do you have $600,000 just laying around, just waiting to give it to somebody?
Just can't wait.
Just can't wait, right? Well, if you want to get rid of some money, I'm right here for you. Right?
Thank
So
you.
be mindful of stuff like that. The one here down below at the bottom left corner, personal items, be careful. It's amazing what information you could pull by somebody's driver's license, or in this case, their license plate number. So be mindful of stuff like that. If it's the expensive car, you know, like the Lamborghini, the Ferrari, their Tesla, don't compromise the safety. If this item can be possibly stolen or broken into, probably shouldn't have it in your photos. Okay. Now, there are many more rules and regulations out there. So one way to get access to our rules and regulations and the updates, go to ocrealtors.org. From there, move your mouse to member services, drop down menu appears, click on MLS. From here, click on the rules and policies. Now, when you do that, you're going to see that you've got two things. One, the full-on rules and regulations updated with an update date. Click on that, read that beautiful 57 page document of what you can and cannot do with MLS data. Now, real quickly, how many people here love to read? Exactly. I see no hands. Right? I can't tell you how many people don't even know their contract because they haven't read it, right? But I'm going to help you out. Carlos, do you remember doing book reports back in school?
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
He's shaking his head.
Yes, he's shaking his head. Excellent.
Yes.
Now, did you either read the book or did you use a thing called Cliff's Notes?
Unfortunately, I read it.
Oh,
I
okay.
fell asleep
So you were
most
like
of the
me,
time,
you
but I read it.
the book. Now, if you were like some of our friends, they bought that thing called Cliff's Notes. Now, for those of you who don't know what Cliff's Notes was or is, basically it's a summary of what the book is, right? But instead of reading, say, the 1,200 pages of War and Peace, you could bought Cliff's Notes, and there in 60 pages or less summarized every chapter and everything about the book. For those of us who don't like to read and find it very tedious to read through the entire rules and regulations because all the legal language can get a little confusing, CRMLS does have a Cliff's Notes version of the MLS rules, and it's called the citation policy. What I love about this booklet is that it basically summarizes in 6 pages the 57 page document. And what I like about it is that it breaks it down into 3 or 4 columns. Here, column number 1 tells you the rule number. Column number 2 indicates if you get a warning letter or not. Usually if it says no, understand that it's an immediate fine. Column number 3 summarizes what that rule is. And column number 4 tells you what fine is associated for breaking that particular rule. Now, here's my disclaimer. If you as an agent go through the citation policy and follow it to the letter, not only should you never ever get a fine, you should never ever get a warning. Now, what's also nice about this is that, geez, I need to have a little bit better explanation of rule 7.9 or 7.9.1. Then jump over into the MLS rules and regulations and immediately go down to that paragraph and read the full-on summary. Or read the full-on rule. So it's an easier learning tool for you. With that said, are there any questions?
I don't know, but if you have questions about it, just contact Carlos.
Exactly. Did I freak everybody out?
Oh, no, I think that's all good. I don't want anyone getting fines or violations of any type. It's never.
Now, does this help piggyback onto your disclosure?
Actually, I'm probably going to save it for next presentation, but no, not necessarily. Mine is far different, but that's okay. This is all very important.
Good. Well, if there are no questions, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all very much for having me here. I look forward to seeing you all next month. Hopefully nobody here gets any fines. I do believe, I think you're one of the lowest offices that ever get any violations. So
Wow.
congratulations.
Congratulations, everybody. That is good to hear, Tony. I'm very happy to hear that.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming today. Tony, thank you once again. Sarah, thank you once again. And it's good to see y'all.
Have a great week.
Too. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, bye.